Choice FM is live at 5.
But it's like this, the South got something to say. That's all I got to say.
Reuben Blackwell and Express Yourself on Choice FM.
Well, good afternoon. This is Reuben Blackwell, and welcome to Express Yourself. This is the last July edition. Man, summertime is flying. July 2024. I'm so happy that you're tuned in with me today as you're leaving work or taking a break at work, or hey, maybe just chilling out at home on a nice sunny summer day. Thank you so much, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, for choosing to tune in to Choice FM 92.1, the People Station. And this is Reuben Blackwell, a man of the people. I say so myself. I love my folks, and I pray they love me too. So I'm here today all by myself to just sort of talk to you. I think we've had a number of weeks, a number of months where I've had great guests that come in and share their thoughts, opinions, and I've had great talk, and we'll continue to do so, perhaps in a different format. But also understand that there's some things that I feel need to be said that I really do want to say. So I'm thankful for the station for working with me so I can express myself too. So, hey, this is a momentous week. We've had so much taking place in the last week or so, and I just can't wait to jump in and talk about it. So let's just go right ahead. Reuben Blackwell's top two today. I just want to lean in a little bit, first of all, on the most significant thing that's taken place, and that's the Democratic Party has a presumptive new nominee for the office of President of the United States. Our President Biden, in his wisdom and his thoughtfulness, and in response to a number of calls to him from across the nation, most substantively those in his own party, call for him to step down from running for a second term. He is 81 years old, and he's done some tremendous things while in office, but also decided to step aside because I think one of the things that was weighing on the Democratic Party was the planned debate between he and Donald Trump about a month or so ago. And Biden didn't do his very best, a little off-centered, but hey, the man had been traveling across the world, dealing with big crowds everywhere he goes, and hard conversation. But the bottom line is, he didn't do the best job in the interview or in the debate. And some people shifted their focus and shifted their calls for support to calls for him to step aside, feeling that there was so much to lose in the entire nation. Governor seats were up, as it is in North Carolina, for grabs. Senate seats up for grabs. The entire Congress, 435 members of the House of Representatives, up for re-election. Lots of change and shifting throughout America in all of that conversation. So there's a lot to lose and a lot to gain. The Democrats have a one-person majority margin in the Senate. They are down by a few votes. The Republicans control the House by a few votes. The Supreme Court, of course, is heavily Republican appointed, heavily dominated by Republicans, but also those individuals appointed by recent Republicans, Donald Trump, one or two there from the last Bush administration, but several appointed by Donald Trump. And of course, we've seen what happens when you have people in control who talk about personal liberty, but then do everything they can to encroach on those liberties, which they feel is not everyone's person to their right or their privilege as American citizens to be able to make decisions for themselves. So we have a historic time in history. And it just seems, every single election things seem to get harder and harder. And the lines get clearer and brighter between the two different perspectives. America's in a two-party system. Right now, it's not the only time that we've been uh, with two parties. We've had other times in our history where there have been more than two parties. There have been three and more in the history of America. So this is our latest iteration and movement, and probably maybe the longest period of time when Democrats and Republicans, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, have held this level of lack of the ability for third parties to come in and participate. It's been other parties at the table, the Green Party and others, that have participated in elections. But for the most part, America is divided between the Democratic Party, which is the party of more progressive, more forward-thinking types of policies and programs. And then you have a Republican Party, of course, which is much more conservative in its approach. And when I say conservative, I mean not wanting to spend money on programs that benefit broadly and directly a lot of people. However, their focus is on making sure that wealthy people stay wealthy from the perspective that their wealth generates jobs and other opportunities for people. It's the Ronald Reagan trickle-down theory. You know how I feel about that. The only thing that trickles down is pain and misery, and then a few little dollars here and there. But that's the case. That's what it is. So Kamala Harris has filled the void that Joe Biden left. In fact, when he stepped to the side, he also said, "I give my full endorsement and support to Vice President Harris to continue the bid for candidacy for President of the United States." I don't think that there's a more prepared, energetic, and ready to go candidate in America from Joe's perspective than Kamala Harris. And so that's what I want to talk about today, that I am excited and enthusiastic. Reuben is excited and enthusiastic about a Kamala Harris run. She clearly has amassed the support and the loyalty of an overwhelming majority of delegates to the Democratic Party National Convention, which occurs, I believe, next week in Chicago. And I think people are ready to go there and cast their ballots and launch this massive race. First thing that happened when Kamala Harris announced that she accepted President Biden's offer of support and decided to cast her ring herself into the midst of the battle. She did so. First thing that happened, Donald Trump says, "I'm not debating her. I'm not going to debate a person who's not yet been nominated by the Democratic Party," knowing full well that she was going to get that nod, that she was going to pick up that seat, knowing full well that she is a skilled litigator and prosecutor, and argued her way, up the bench or in front of the bench in San Francisco, and then the entire state of California. She was district attorney in San Francisco, and then worked her way up to become attorney general for the state of California. And then, of course, the rest is history. She was appointed by President Biden as vice president. And as vice president, you carry whatever water the president assigns you to carry, and you do those things to benefit the objectives and the initiatives of the administration that you serve. And the president sets the agenda, sets the tone, sets the tempo for the things that you're working on. And Kamala Harris has proved herself to be quite able to handle any level of criticism or matter that's been set before you. And it's sort of interesting that the picture that is trying to be painted about her is a picture that the border is in chaos, a picture that she has failed the American people, and even an attempt in Congress to besmirch her name, that she somehow dropped the ball on the border activity between the United States and Mexico. And of course, it's only the southern border that folks want to talk about. But I'm here for it today. I tell you, I'm here for it today. I hope you're listening with me and to me, because I want to just give, one person's opinion, one Black man's opinion from a small town in the rural South, and living in a mid-sized city now in Eastern North Carolina. I think I got something to say. First of all, for the pundits who are critical of Kamala Harris's work at the border, what I'd say to you, first of all, is that she can only implement policies that the Biden administration chooses to initiate. She does not have the power to override the Congress, which is combined of both the House of Representatives and the Senate. And when the Biden administration and Kamala Harris had negotiated a very proactive bipartisan agreement with both houses of the Congress, with both parties within Congress, when there was an imminent solution to the border problem, it was the Republican nominee, former President Trump, number 45, who told everybody, don't you do it. Do not support passing a bill that will become law that would give Joe Biden's administration a win. So when people want to get all upset about what's taking place at the border, you better look to the folk who got the power and the ability to make law and to fund law, and that is Congress. Their unwillingness and inability to come together on legislation that would pass the House of Representatives, and then that would pass the U.S. Senate, and then get ratified and an agreement signed by the President of the United States, that lies squarely on the table of the Speaker of the House, Mr. Johnson from Louisiana, and the failure of the Republican Party to embrace what their role and their job is to do. And any criticism that is levied at President Biden and Vice President Harris, as if they are the reason for what has been created at the border, is an absolute untruth. It's myopic and it's responsive to mean party politics. First of all, from my point of view, this whole conversation and discussion around border politics is very hypocritical to me and very myopic. First of all, we're talking about two nations which have enjoyed and suffered at simultaneously a history of coexistence. We're joined together as a landmass, down near the border, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, California, and we are held together by history that has had migration of First Peoples, those are natives, Native Americans, indigenous peoples, as they would call themselves, and as they are, and we've been held together by history where Spain, the European power, and Portugal conquered and colonized South America, Mexico, Central America, South America, and then adopted a culture that was centered around Eurocentric Spanish mores and values, which decimated native peoples who were already there and living there, and which also was infused with Black peoples from Africa through the Middle Passage. So the boat stopped in that part of the world first, even before it came to America the United States of America as we know it today. So we have a history where there's been a lot of trade back and forth, a lot of commerce back and forth, a lot of people movement back and forth, and a shared history of politics and borders moving back and forth. But the bottom line is that it's so interesting to me that American agriculture businesses are actively recruiting people from Central and South America and Mexico to come to the United States and work in their fields, but they are not sponsoring people and paying people money to leave and money to go through the very expensive visa process. But yet they're saying, come here, work in our fields, literally, because that's the job that they have for them, you know. And then the border policies are very hostile to people. You know, when you talk to people who live in Mexico, they would love to be able to immigrate to America, or even have just work visas and work there and then go back home because they love their country, just like we love our country. But their countries are rife with political corruption, much of which, you know, First Nations, not First Nations, but much of which the developed nations people have created the instability on purpose so that those funds, you know, in their economy go to support the very, very top rung and echelon. And just like everywhere else, you know, poor people stay poor, very little middle class development. But when they come to America, they come to work in fields. They come to work in entry-level positions. They come to work in places that sometimes have very little protections around the workplace environment and their humanity and their physical safety, their mental health safety, their well-being. Those things are often, you know, cast to the side just because you just need some fruit picked in a certain amount of time or some vegetables harvested in a certain amount of time. We want you while we got you. You know, we're not going to pay you fair wages. We're going to throw you in camps and bus you, and you should be thankful for what you have because at least you have a job. At least you're in a place where you're valued and your children get taken care of. And at least we have a number of at least this. But the bottom line, not treating and valuing people as human beings and not treating people with the respect and dignity that they deserve. And then you got a whole bunch of people, you know, who are screaming and hollering that those people don't need to be here. But I don't see you lining yourself up to go pick sweet potatoes, pull sweet potatoes out the earth. I don't see you lining up to have your children prepared to go pick soybeans in the fields. I don't see you lined up to want to be in a position where you're harvesting lettuce or oranges or tomatoes or zucchini or whatever thing you want to name. And in America, if we just tell the truth about it, you know, we know exactly what Donald Trump meant when he said they're coming over here taking your black jobs. That's what he meant. He sure didn't mean taking jobs in IT. He sure didn't mean taking jobs in top administrative positions or jobs in sciences or jobs, you know, in the medical arena and the healthcare arena. He sure didn't mean displacing you at universities. He certainly didn't mean doing anything to inhibit your ability to open up your businesses. He said they're here taking your black jobs. The only jobs that Latino people are taking in mass are agricultural jobs that require life, limb, and everything they have so that the rest of the world can eat. Every time you open your mouth and put a piece of something in it, for the most part, a person of color has touched that fruit, that meat, that vegetable, that carb, whatever it is that you're ingesting, more than likely a person of color who was poor touched that. Kamala Harris is not responsible for people coming from Mexico and South America into America. She's not responsible for that. She didn't create it by herself. Neither did Joe Biden. Neither did Donald Trump. It's been hundreds of years of history. That's what I want us to recognize. We're not going to fix anything in 5, 10, 2, or 20 years. It's been a several hundred-year dynamic history back and forth and back and forth. And basically, America has got to learn that we don't just tell the whole world what to do. We have to work together with people. People are not just going to do what they say that we want them to do just because we say it, not even within our own borders. There is something called compromise that some people would like to interpret as something evil and bad, but it's not that. You compromise not on your core ethics, but you compromise on strategies. You compromise on tactics and develop opportunities for everybody to be able to participate and to work. So that's what I believe Kamala Harris is looking for. And my gosh, her excitement, her enthusiasm meter is off the chain. She's getting entertainers lining up to say, hey, we're going to work with you. It doesn't get any bigger than Beyonce and Taylor Swift. I don't know if you like their music or not. It's really sort of irrelevant because whether I listen to it or not, 1 billion people around the world do. It's a whole lot of Swifties and a whole lot of beehives or bayhives or whatever they call themselves because they love the phenomenal woman and her phenomenal music. And what entertainers are learning, some of them are learning that they do have considerable influence, in special places where the message is just not getting to people about why we need to vote. So much misinformation and intentional disinformation, information that is absolutely untruthful from the gate to start out with. None of us want to think that there are people who sit around just making up lies to share. But you know what? There are those people who are there. And a whole lot of them are on a station called Fox. Yeah, I said it. I was looking at some video where a guy was talking about people supporting Kamala Harris, and I just couldn't believe the amount of insanity that was coming out of his mouth. He said that when men vote for women, it shows that they're trying to impress women about who they are. And as a man votes for a woman, he becomes a woman. What in the ham sandwich without mayonnaise and mustard is that? Who made that up? Where did it come from? What, how did that get on national TV? That's what I'm talking about. So there are tons of people who are persuaded that these lies are being interpreted as truth. But all I can say to you, that's why I'm on this show today. That's why I'm thankful that Choice FM has given me a platform and a network where I can just sort of share my thoughts with you. My thoughts are that Kamala Harris is prepared and ready to take America to the next place. My thoughts are that if she defies traditional party logic and doesn't try to make over herself as anybody, but presents herself as a beautiful bundle of diversity that she is. She is Black, she is female, she is an Asian American, she's an AAPI member, Asian American Pacific Islander. She fits in that category. She is a wife of a white Jewish man and the stepmom of 2 children that are European Caucasian Jews. And yet she's also a graduate of an HBCU. She is a member of the Divine Nine, a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. She's a brilliant legal mind, and she's tough as nails in her approach to standing up for what's right. I believe that Kamala Harris is the woman that this nation needs to lead, and she's going to become, I believe, the first female president in American history. Isn't it just wonderful? For me that she's a Black woman too, and I'm very excited that the world is recognizing again who to go to when it's time to fix stuff up. So we recognize it's very broken. The Republican Party has some soul searching to do about who they want to define themselves to be. Everyone's not convinced that Kamala Harris is the right person for the ticket, clearly, but I'm listening to the stretch and the leaps that people have to go to find something to disqualify her to lead. But frankly, when your option is Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, you cannot in one breath talk about competency. That's just not even on that agenda. If you're going to talk competency, your candidate has lost out in every single category of evaluation. Every single one of them ain't one stone that you're going to turn over where you're going to find Donald Trump is smarter than Kamala Harris. No, not going to happen. That's my opinion, not the opinion of the station, but that's why I'm here. This is Reuben Blackwell, and I'm on Express Yourself. And you're hearing all of my opinions today. I'm so happy you're tuning in to listen to me. Let's take a break for a few minutes, and we're going to pay some bills, and then I'm coming back because I got more to talk about. Thank you so much.
Choice FM is live at 5.
But it's like this, the South got something to say. That's all I got to say.
Reuben Blackwell and Express Yourself on Choice FM.
Well, I'm back. This is Reuben, and I got more of Express Yourself on Choice FM 92. This is Wednesday, Hump Day. We're going to get over there together, get over the hump together. I still got something else to talk about, too. I'm just going to talk sort of fun stuff. Hey, the world is not only captivated by Kamala Harris. This is Black Woman Week. I tell you what, if you watch the Olympics, you got to know it's just one name on the tip of everybody's tongue. And what's that name? What's that name? Simone Biles. Yes, sir. She is the very best, most decorated. She just got another gold medal, a series of gold medals, where she and her teammates walked away with the best overall gymnast team in the world. This gives her 8 gold medals. She is now the most decorated gymnast in American history. So she's broken the books, and that glass is shattered all around. Somebody said, and just speaking again about another person I just talked about, Vice President Kamala Harris, that in her run for presidency, y'all better put some shoes on because it's going to be glass that you're walking on top of as soon as she gets that nod as our next president of the United States. So I tell you what, Simone, we're just so proud of you and all those young ladies. I don't have all your names, but that was such a beautiful picture to me of America. Just looking at the women's gymnastic team, you have Black women, Asian women, Latino women, white women. It's just a beautiful compendium of everything that America is and everything that America should be. If I wanted to point to diversity, equity, and inclusion, I would point to this current U.S. gymnast team as to why diversity is important. If we weren't a nation that valued diversity in every way, and that not being a code word for you getting something that you didn't deserve. No, people who have had to work and earn their way up to the top need every advantage and opportunity because it's other people who are at the top who are just there because of their skin color. They're just there because it's not always about intellect. Trust me, it ain't always because they're smarter. It's not always because they're richer. It's because doors open that were related to race, and people have such a difficulty embracing that. But it's true. People, especially who benefit from it, it's just true, and it's nothing wrong with saying, "Hey, I'm benefiting from privilege that I didn't receive, but now that I have the privilege, let me tell you what I'm going to do with it." That's what we're looking for. I'm looking for folks who are saying, you don't have to deny anything. All of us receive something that we didn't earn. Hey, I believe that I got grace every day by a God who sees me and sees the things that I do that might be good and sees all the things I do that are not good, but yet I get extended grace every day, something I did not earn. I get grace every day to do better, to live better, to have another opportunity to get those things right that I got wrong the day before. That's what privilege is. it gives you opportunity to do things. And instead of fighting to keep the privilege, what about fighting to do the very best you can when you're given an opportunity, no matter who you are, to make it better, not just for yourself, but for someone else? That's what I see in Simone Biles as the leader of a U.S. gymnast team. Her teammates, they're all teenagers, and she's like 27, 28, and I think their nickname for her is Grandma. They call her the grandmother, but that woman can get out there and out jump. I said, girl, I know you are like 20 feet in the air. It's just amazing to me that someone so little can get so high. She has so much energy, so much training, so much strength. It is truly beautiful to behold. And there are many, many other folks who are out there. I think 16 days. I don't know how many days in we are. So maybe they have about 2 weeks left, to compete and perform in all the different areas of opportunity that the Olympics bring. So we're with all of our athletes from the United States, and there are many people who live in the United States who actually are on other countries' teams. They might have ethnic ties to those nations. They might be recent immigrants, so their parents, were citizens of other nations, and they living here in the United States, studying here, but they're carrying another country's banner. So we say that's okay too. You're not a traitor to our nation because you represent another nation. If anything else, you broaden our diversity, you broaden our influence, you broaden our ability to tell a story to the world that when you come to this country, you can come and achieve great things because we work hard to remove barriers that keep people from succeeding and excelling in life. And that's what I believe that people of good intent are looking for in this election and in every election. They're looking for people who will put others before themselves in consideration. I want to talk about Roy Cooper, who is our governor, who is in the final months of his last term, who also was being considered as a potential vice presidential nominee to run along with President Kamala Harris. And according to all of the media outlets, the Season and the other ones that we have to trust and to look to, or to at least review what they present to us, that Governor Cooper was the top nominee, but he decided to remove himself from consideration. And in these last few days before the convention in Chicago, and the common buzz that's generated is that he stepped away from the nomination because he was concerned that Mark Robinson would have an opportunity, if only for a brief moment, to move from the lieutenant governor position to acting governor until the elections in November. He wasn't trusting it. And I wish I had some sound machines that could make some noises, because I would do a full-on hurrah for our governor for choosing personal sacrifice. And I'm sure Governor Cooper, it was a huge sacrifice, and I'm sure a disappointment for not being considered, because I'm certain that his record as governor, and we've known him in public service for 30 years or more. We've seen him as an attorney in the courtroom. We've seen him, operate as an attorney general for the state of North Carolina. We've seen him in the House of Representatives, in the General Assembly, and he's had a stellar career that has always supported people, all people. He's been a strong advocate for business and industrial development in our state. He's been a strong advocate for education and funding education and championing education. He's been a strong advocate for human and civil rights. There's some things that I believe he could have done in some other areas, but he chose to put his emphasis in other ways. But he's done a very good job from my perspective in supporting policies that help make things better for people who are coming back into our communities from jails and from prisons. We call them returning citizens, not ex-convicts. And even, I just think even let's shift again, this presidency, President Trump, didn't even talk a lot about him, but former President Trump, 34 felonies he's been convicted of. So he's officially a felon. Conviction has occurred. He's not been sentenced yet. And that's something that I think is coming up sometime, perhaps in September. The Supreme Court has set aside and made the president immune, or the position of president immune from activities that will be deemed related to his or her job while in office. And the Supreme Court has recently um, ruled that a former president cannot be held liable for his actions that are directly related to his time in the office. And of course, that just ties directly back to the January 6th insurrection, the second almost civil war in America. And there are people who are sitting waiting with bated breath. They want to see violence occur again in our streets. They're so eager to see something bad happen to a lot of people simultaneously. They're just waiting for some level of anxious retribution to hurt people, physically hurt people for feeling that they are not as prosperous as they should be, or they are not as far along in society as they should be. This stuff is old. It's old as the hills. It's a human issue. It's a heart issue. It's a darkness issue, and I don't mean darkness as far as color of skin. I'm just saying darkness without the presence of an enlightened perspective and a mindset. That we have so many people who are so eager to force their way on other people and feel justified in it. That's this whole movement behind this anti-abortion. And I think about, and I said it before, in my own life. My wife and I, before Cooper was born, my older son, we had two miscarriages. And both of those miscarriages were very hurtful, painful processes that I watched my wife endure. But it took a psychological and an emotional toll on her, of course, primarily because she is the person that was bearing within her body another person, another human being. But I'm her spouse and it's my hopes and dreams are vested as well, and my focus and relationship invested as well. But when her body could no longer contain or hold those those embryos in a healthy manner, the body expelled the embryos. But in order for my wife to remain healthy, she needed to have the rest of her uterus cleaned so that there would not be any remains of those embryos, or the sac in which they were living would not infect my wife and take her life. So she had to undergo procedures which, under laws in many states in the South, and perhaps even including North Carolina, would be considered abortion. And to think that my wife, in the most challenging time of her life, and me as her supportive husband in the most challenging time in our marriage, where we could not bear children and could not carry, to have people demonize a person when they need help the most, to strip away services and support as healthcare providers, to threaten physicians and advanced practice practitioners and practices and systems, hospital systems for offering life-saving care because you believe that you should have that right to control every aspect of a person's body, that's a problem. It's a problem to me as a thinking human being and as a person who will never bear a child. I can't ever have children. My anatomy doesn't allow me to do that. And most of these people who stand moralizing and screaming and hollering, and as your candidate for governor for the state of North Carolina under the GOP banner has stated, just because they can't keep their skirts down, they don't deserve to be allowed to abort fetuses. Well, I choose to differ. I choose to differ, especially when you don't want to support food stamp programs, especially when you want to dismantle public education where babies and children and young men and young women get to grow up and learn about things that will better themselves and that will give them the ability to earn working wages, careers that will fulfill them and that will pay their bills. When you find ways to dismantle every service that comes to poor people, you didn't want to pass the Affordable Care Act. Donald Trump's still saying, if I get in office and I have the right kind of Congress, we're going to repeal the Affordable Care Act, which we just got the full benefit of expansion of Medicaid in North Carolina, with 500,000 people coming on the roll within the first few months after it was initiated. So now you want to have a governor who doesn't believe that health care is important unless you have money to pay for it, but then strips away your ability to earn money while you're getting there. Folk, we just need to think beyond the little sound bites and the high-minded morality that we want to impose upon other people. You better think about what it is you want when you're considering who you're going to vote for, if you're going to vote. Because as my host said, or my guest said last week, when you don't vote, that's a vote too. You just help somebody get elected with your non-voting self. You still voted because you didn't vote. So somebody else's vote became more important than your vote. But your vote could have been a deciding vote in any election. You don't know when, where, or how. And I hope that what people will do in listening to our program here or any other program every night at 5 o'clock on this station, Monday through Friday, you got somebody great to listen to. The station owners and the managers have ensured that there's a diverse group of voices that all speak from different perspectives, but that benefit the communities that you live in. When are you going to value yourself so much so that you decide to be courageous enough to break away from the norm of just accepting whatever comes your way and get some courage and energy about yourself to stand up and say, hey, I can make a difference too. I can get educated. You know, I do want people to run for office, but you know what I don't want? I don't want people to run for office who don't have a vision for how they're going to help somebody other than themselves. And I think we have an epidemic of elected officials, Black and white, Native and Asian, Latino, women and men. We got an epidemic of elected officials who see public service as a pathway for personal gain and advancement. And hey, you got a seat in a position. People are going to see you. They're going to hear you because you're in a seat and you maybe have a position that has some level of influence. But if you can't use your influence to help people who are counting on you, especially if you are a person of color, and I say this very seriously with all of my heart, And I know people believe different ways and different things, and some people don't think that we should even be discussing race. Most of those people that I find have a problem with who they are. They have a problem with their culture because they think their culture is less than someone else's culture. And they find ways to look at the worst parts of humanity in themselves and the people they associate with. And so they want to normalize, hide, and protect instead of stand up for, represent, and transform. Use your power to transform opportunities for people who have no power in their minds. But I'm just here to say that we got a constitution. We got a constitution even written by all white men who were most of them slave owners. Most of them did not want white women to own property or make decisions or vote. Most of them that were slave owners had white wives and black mistresses that they were raping on a constant basis. And that's why we got so many levels of skin color within our nation, because we had a whole lot of sleeping going on. So, this whole movement, I don't want to be negative about anything, but this is nothing new where we have white folk used to call what we call biracial or interracial marriages. During slavery, that was called miscegenation, and it was against the law. But that was a law that was never enforced on white folk. Raping black women happened in my family, it probably happened in yours. So all I can say is that now we survived. We survived. We survived all of that. Don't we have an obligation to make the future better than the past that we grew up in? Don't we have an obligation to my dear listeners to not just listen to all this information and shake our heads and say, oh, something bad's going to happen or something's about to take place? Why don't we hear the information and get motivated to do something about it? That's what I hope you get when you call in or when you listen in to me and you're listening to Express Yourself, that you find some motivation with the information that you hear to get up and go do something. First of all, if you're not registered to vote, you better find your way and get yourself down to the Board of Elections. Go online, print out a document, send it in to your local Board of Elections. If you are registered to vote, make sure everybody in your circle of influence are registered just like you. And then get yourself some education. Please don't just listen to what the stars are saying on either side or the other. That's good that somebody can support their candidate, but go get some information. You better go read something called Project 2025. I'm going to do a show on that one day. We're going to just talk about it, go through. It's a huge document, and there's no way I can begin to unpack everything, but just the fact that there is a document that clearly outlines how to oppress people intentionally, how to scatter them and divide them and take away their rights, their future, just so a few other people can get even richer. They have money they'll never spend. They'll never spend their money. Do you understand? But they don't want you to have money. You better vote for yourself. You better vote for people who believe in helping you get ahead. And it's not about a free check or a free pass. It's about what you've earned. It's about ensuring that you and your kids have every opportunity to education. We're going to talk next time about these crazy vouchers. Over $1 billion in North Carolina allocated to vouchers to go to private school when they're stripping money away from public schools. They don't want people to learn objective information to cause you to be able to think your way through things. There's some people who just want a nation of dumb, ignorant people who will follow the strongest leader. Well, that's why I'm here and Express Yourself, to dismantle that disruption. Let's take our country back, and I don't mean that in a let's go back mode. I'm saying let us continue to advocate for life, liberty, and the pursuit of justice. Let's continue to advocate for everybody having an opportunity to live in a world that is free from oppression. And let's tell the truth, because we want to unveil and reveal everything to people that's bad so they have a chance to avoid it for themselves, and show you another opportunity to succeed in a manner not just for you, but for everybody around you and for your children after you and for other people's children too. I'm just so thankful that you've chosen to listen to me today. Thank you so much for tuning in to Express Yourself. Before I close the show today, I'd like to give particular honor and calls for prayer and condolences to the families of two genuine public servants. Mr. Robert Davis passed a couple of weeks ago. He was funeralized last weekend. He was the leader of the Meadowbrook Neighborhood Association, a very vocal advocate for everyday common people who didn't have voice themselves. Mr. Davis was a staunch and a stalwart and a relentless advocate for the poor. And we thank God that he lived a good life and took care of his family and was able to pass peacefully in his own home. Then we also want to, so pray for his wife, Gloria, and his son, Alifier, and his grandchildren. And keep that family in prayer, please. And also we are praying for the family of Christine Horn. Mrs. Horn was a force, a dynamo, a Politico. She could tell you all about politics and why people were doing what they were doing and what we should be doing to either support or oppose. She was also a resident in Ward 1 and just a wonderful human being, a member of Delta Sigma Theta, a very proud member with her dear sister, Lesterine Sturdivant. Those two were frick and frack and were inseparable as they should have been. Beautiful sisters who both worked together with social action leading them. We're praying for Lesterine, for Mrs. Horn's husband, for her family, for all their family, all those people who were connected to them in love or by blood. We just say thank you to Mrs. Horn. Thank you to Mr. Davis. Your lives were worth the living. You enriched other people tremendously, and we appreciate who you are and what you've done. And we now take those torches, just like in the Olympics, in that last leg of a 400-meter run. You know, when the torch is passed to that next hand, the one who ran the race stops what they're doing on their leg, but the one who has the torch gets to move it forward. My question to you is your hand extended to take a torch. Don't think that because you won't take a torch that the expectations for you are still not there. Those expectations exist. The universe is going to pressure you to rise up and be your best. And I'm here to tell you, you can do it. You can make a difference. Thank you for listening to Express Yourself. I'm so excited that you tune me in. Continue to pray for me and support me if you can. Would you just hit me a little note on Facebook and say, good topic, and tell me what you want to talk about. Give me some guidance about what you want to hear, and I'll do some research and come right back to you. Until then, this is Reuben Blackwell. I'm your weekly host on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. on Choice FM, the People Station. And I'm bidding you adieu and hope you have a great week. Have a great one. Enjoy being with you. Thank you for listening to me. And have a wonderful Wednesday. Reuben Blackwell signing out and Express Yourself. And I'll see you next week.
Choice FM is live at 5.
But it's like this, the South got something to say. That's all I got to say.
Reuben Blackwell and Express Yourself on Choice FM.